Hi everyone, it's Ren here. Hope you're doing well. This video I'm going to try to tackle the question of how to be a happy INFJ. I have not really prepared this in detail. I have a broad outline of what I want to talk about, but hopefully this will be enough and I'll be able to provide some useful pieces of advice. Is it possible to be a genuinely happy INFJ? Yeah, I think so. But there are probably some things to keep in mind. I don't want to call them rules, but things to keep in mind, things that are good to know to make sure that you're healthy and happy as an INFJ. So here we go. I'm going to give you some tips based on my own experience and observations by myself about whether these things may be happy or not. So the first thing I would say is you're 9 dominant, so embrace the uniqueness of your vision. Never let other people convince you that your vision is weird, it's not worth it, is not concrete, is not useful. Embrace your vision for what it is, because it is a unique vision, and at some point or other it's going to make a difference in people's lives. And I would say cultivate it also in some form, in writing, in drawing. If you're a creative type, if you're a writing type, if you're or whatever type, try to keep a bit of like track of your vision, of your thoughts, of your NI insights. Write them down. Make sure that you honor it, because one of the ways in which you're gonna keep a sense in which, or rather, a sense of the worthiness of your insights, the worthiness of what you have to contribute in terms of your intuition, is by giving it flesh. Because from the moment that you give it flesh, you're in a way acknowledging that it matters. Okay, so I would really recommend that. Another piece of advice related to that is to not fall into the trap of keeping it entirely for yourself. Of course, NI things, we're tempted to keep them for ourselves because they are so intimate and it feels comfortable keeping them for ourselves. But I think if you have a select group of friends that you really trust and that you think might appreciate what you have to contribute, show it to them, because we're also FE users and we do tend to feel happy when we can share things with others, things we do, and when others give us good feedback, we care about it and it makes us even more fulfilled. So rather than keeping it for yourself, try to see if you have friends that you would trust it with, friends that you know will be tactful in handling it if they critique it or if they give their opinion, friends who know you well and who are capable of valuing what you have to bring to the table. But I would say share it, even if it's with not many people. Try to share it with some people. Do not keep it entirely for yourself, because this is also how you're going to end up doing the looping between NI and TI. Now, relating to FE, I would say another piece of advice that I would give is try to not let yourself be trampled on. I know it's not an easy thing to do, especially for maybe INFJs who are super sensitive and a little bit introverted, but I think because we are FE users and we're not dominant FE users, we have a tendency, or at least there's always this risk that we might fall into the people-pleasing behavior. The problem is that people-pleasing in itself is a bit problematic, but there are also people who are not worth pleasing and that we end up pleasing, and people who might not be nice to us in public even, and we don't really know how to confront them. Well, I think just because you trust your vision and you trust that you're a worthy person, you should not let other people trample you, stamp on you, do things that are really not cool, not worth, like not if you like, not wise to just let happen, because people might then continue doing it. So try to just clearly set boundaries and not let yourself be told that you're this or that's insulting or treated unfairly. Stand for yourself, and if you have difficulty knowing how to stand for yourself, maybe do not try to do it by means of a direct violent confrontation, but by maybe invoking things that are to be channeled through your FE, which you can use very well. Invoking things very clearly, very directly, in terms of it not being fair, you refusing to be treated that way, you having integrity and not wanting to deal with this person anymore, or just this person really needing to change their behavior. Always embrace what you're worth, okay? And you don't need to insult back, or you don't need to mistreat back, but invoke those ethical principles, that can always be invoked, and make the other person realize that they're being the way that they're being, okay? And do not try to make it personal. Try to keep it somehow above the personal, at the universal level. INFJs and IFE users can do that well. Another piece of advice I would give you is, how to put this? I would say, don't be afraid of apologizing when you're wrong, because that's something that INFJs can do well. Like, if you think that at some point you're wrong about something, people really appreciate it when we apologize to them. And I find that FE users, particularly NIFE users, they can do that without it feeling like they're betraying themselves, okay? So that's always a good way to have a good relationship with people, and for people to trust you, is to have the ability to apologize easily without feeling like you're betraying yourself, or you're surrendering your ego or anything like that. So I would also recommend that. I would say, another piece of advice is to try to, when people provide critique or critique your work or critique you in a constructive way, try to always keep in mind that the criticism is not directed necessarily at you, but it's more directed at what you're doing and how it can improve. And if you're a perfectionist, which INFJs are supposed to be, it should be logical, it should be rational for an INFJ to take that criticism as such in order to progress, but to not take it personally. And IFE is going to be such a nature that we are going to be very likely to take things personally, but to not take things personally. I know it's easier said than done, but start by developing this mental habit, this trick in your mind of connecting critique with what you do rather than what you are, okay? So that you can become better. See it in terms of future potentialities, which as an INFJ you should be good at doing. So these are already things that are these are numerous things, and it's not so easy to implement them necessarily, but I think that they are quite useful things. Another thing that I would recommend is to try to train your TI if you feel like you're a little bit weak, or that your TI could be developed more. It's supposed to start developing in your 20s, logical reasoning, things like that. I would say, personally, what I have done is actually read works of logic, read works of simple mathematics. It's helped me a bit. Works of rhetoric as well can be quite useful. Knowing how to build arguments, these things can be very good. And in general, I would say, try to train yourself to, when you start feeling that your function is developing and that you see logical patterns with NI that you're struggling to express, try to train yourself, maybe even by yourself, in writing or in speaking to yourself. I do that all the time. Try to see how you could express those insights, because if you're not with other people, maybe it will be a little bit easier in terms of projecting your image. You won't be feeling like you're stupid, but you will be able to just take your time and see how you can articulate the NI insight in writing, and you will probably try to divide it into little parts, categories, how they relate to one another in order to give a picture. And in that, you will be making use of a lot of TI. And it probably will be tiring, but that's also how you get to hone your TI. It's also how you will get to harness your TI. There's a connection between the NI and the TI. Don't do that all the time, because then you'll again fall into NI-TI loops probably. But always try to keep that in mind, and then, just as often, share things with other people to know what they think. Keep the FE link going, right? Now, in terms of SE, I think I would be a little bit hypocritical if I were to give lots of advice regarding SE, because I myself need to develop it more. But I would say try to try to keep in mind that you're going to be sensitive to aesthetics. Everybody is, but an SE user is going to be particularly sensitive to aesthetics, which means also that probably you're going to be more likely to be sensitive to your external environment more than you even realize. You will intuitively feel it. Maybe you will not make sense about, make sense of it yourself consciously, but cultivate your environment to, and also maybe even the way you look, the way you dress, for it to be pleasing to you, something that you like, something that you feel comfortable in, whether it be your clothes or your environment. Have respect for beauty. Beauty is a great thing, and we all agree about this, but I think it's an important aspect. And often these environments can feed into your NI insights, because SE is what provides them the stuff, the matter, the content of what we eventually synthesize as NI insights. Okay, so that was my list of little pieces of advice that I can think of right now that I'm working on myself to be a happy INFJ. I hope it was useful, and let me know in the comment if it was. See you guys.